Good morning everyone, and let's talk about your math sets. So when you get a new math set, you guys all excited, you open it up, you've got a nice stencil, a timetable sheet, and some important maths information that you'll have to learn one day. We'll put that aside. Then you get the protractor. This is for measuring of angles. This is also for drawing, it's called a set square, also for drawing of angles. And then of course inside here we get a lovely clear ruler, and you get a pencil. This is your compass, a sharpener. This is called the dividers, that's for measuring the length of a line. I did say to everyone in the beginning of the year that it's a very good idea to get a clear protractor or a clear math set, because it's so much easier to read numbers when something is clear. These beautiful colourful ones are just a little bit difficult to read, as beautiful as they are. I do encourage you though to have the clear set. Measuring angles with a protractor. Well, first of all, it's a good idea to sit up over your work, because you have to read from sky view or top view. So when you slide your protractor on, you'll notice over here that there is a cross. That cross will go onto that dot over there, and this line over here must fall on that line. Now we're going to measure the green angle on, and I make sure that I'm absolutely above and everything is lined up. So you can see that the line passes through the zero and the line passes through the zero on that side. You'll notice that there are two sets of numbers. There's a lot of numbers there and there are numbers over there. So which one do we read? Well, it's always a good idea to start measuring from zero. So this is your baseline and there is 0. So you're going to read on the second line 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. But it's not exactly on 50. So very, very carefully, if you look, it's actually just past 50. So in actual fact, you're going to read this as 51 degrees. In our next example, this is an obtuse angle. Again, I'm going to place my protractor, put the cross on the blue dot in the middle, line up the line through the 0 there and through the 0 on this side. Make sure that it is perfectly straight. And it does help, because I've got grid paper, to make sure that the 90 is going straight up the middle. That certainly does help. Then from here again, which line do I read? Well, we're actually measuring the green angle. So for that reason, we're going to start at the baseline. And a baseline, when you start counting, should start at 0. So for that reason, I'm going to go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. But it's not exactly on 120. It's just past 120. And it's the first line past 120. So I'm hoping that you know that would be 121 degrees. The only time I'm going to use this side is if my green part that I'm measuring was on this side. Then I would count from that side. An obtuse angle. Again, I line up the cross in the middle, the line through the zeros, and the 90 on the line. If you're using graph paper, it definitely does help. Again, I'm measuring the green angle. So I'm going to start counting from 0, because it's normal to start counting from 0. We don't count backwards. Make sure you stay on the inside line all the way around. I'm 130, so if you're counting to 10, 20, 30, skip a few, 90, 100, 130, 140, 160, there's 170. So it's a bit more than 160, but not 170. If you look carefully, it's not 165, but 164. because here we've got 160, 165, 170. That's 175, and over here we've got 180. So 160, that's 165. Well, one off of it, if you're looking at that line over there, gives you 164 degrees. Another acute angle. Again, I pick it up. I line up the zeros. Try and get my 90 nicely lined up. I'm on graph paper, it really does help. It's nicely lined up. Again, this is my baseline. That is my angle I'm measuring. I start from 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It's not 60, that is 55, because you're counting 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So it's after 50. And if you notice very carefully, that is 51, 52. So this reading would be 52 degrees. I'm going to put the next one on, and you're going to do it yourself first. This one, you're going to measure first. I'll line up the protractor. All right, count it off yourselves. I'll give you a few moments. Decide which line you're going to be on. So I'm going to start with, there's 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, there's 35. It's not 35, it's 1 degree before 35. So this one is going to be 34 degrees. And I'm hoping that you get that too. Another angle to measure, and yes, believe it or not, this is an acute angle. If it was 90 degrees or a right angle, it would be straight up, and this would change to a square. So I'm going to line it up very carefully. You must take your time. I'm actually standing up at the moment, and I'm looking over my work. Now, if I look very carefully, I can see that it's not 90, because 90 is right there on that mark over there. This over here would be 85. So it's in between the two, and if you count very carefully, it's going to be 85, 86, 87. So I would say this is 87, 5, but I would actually also accept 88 in this instance, because it does seem to be leaning onto that line. So in this instance, I would actually accept 2 readings. I think without even having to measure, you know that it is, yes, 90 degrees. Look at the lines, they're nice and straight, and you'll notice the shape of the angle is actually a square. Now, if you remember the video from your first one, you'll know that that indicates 90 degrees. So if I do line this up, just to prove to you, there, I fall nicely on the line. My line goes up, so yes, that is 90 degrees. Finally one that's a little bit of a challenge. If you look very carefully, you'll notice the green area is bigger than acute, it's bigger than 90, it's bigger than obtuse, and it's bigger than 180. It has gone right past. So to make this easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark a straight line. So I'm going to put a ruler on the paper, and I'm going to make it as straight as I can, and I'm going to extend the line nice and straight. So you'll notice I now have 180. So this part of the green here is 180 degrees. But I haven't finished measuring my angle. I can either count from the 180 this way, or I can count from this way to that. I'm going to get the same answer. So if you need to turn your paper, turn your paper. So I'm going to line it up this way. And the reason I'm lining it up is because I've extended the line. And because I've extended the line, I can make sure that my 180 is nice and straight. Make sure that it's on the line perfectly. It crosses it nicely. I just want to make sure that I'm crossing it nicely. There is my baseline now, 0, 0. But I know that's 180 over here. So now I'm going to measure from 0, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. That's 70. So I'm going to call that 65. So we know that small space there is 65. Now we're not finished. We have to put the whole thing together. So I'm going to take 180 and I'm going to add 65 to it. And if I add 180 plus 65, I'm going to get 245. And that is the size of our reflex angle. Now you can see I have another acute angle, but I can't just put my protractor down like that and measure it, because the space I'm measuring is over there. So I would then turn my protractor, I would line up the cross on the cross, line up the zeros in the line so it goes through the zeros, and then I would read from here. But now I'm not going to read from the inside line, because the inside line starts at 180. And we know that this is an acute angle. And all acute angles are smaller than 90 degrees. Right? So I'm going to measure from there to there. And I can see 10 and I can see 15, 20. Now I can see that it's past 10, but it's not quite 15. So I'm going to say that is 13. That this angle is 13 degrees. Another obtuse angle, except this time I've drawn it from the other side. So now I know that this is my baseline and I have to start from 0 on this side. And I'm going to measure from this line to that line, and that is the angle I'm measuring. So I would put the 0 on the line over there, the cross on the cross, and if I'm working on graph paper, I'd make sure that I line it up. Now in this instance, I'm going to start reading on the outside line, because I've got to read from 0. But while you're reading, make sure that you stay on the outside line. So technically you're going this way round. So we're going round, 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 90, 100, 110, 120, 130 is there, 140. Now, if you look very carefully, it's definitely sitting in the middle there. And I'm thinking we're all going to agree that this is 135 degrees. Now, think about this for a moment. It is an obtuse angle, so it's got to be bigger than 90, because acute angles are smaller than 90, a right angle is 90, so an obtuse angle must be bigger than 90, but it does have to be smaller than 180, and this one fits right in. Well, here's another one. What if I give you a drawing like this? Immediately you can see that the angle given to you is bigger than 180, because it stretches past 180. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to extend my line. Again, I tell you to work over your work, nice and straight, and extend the line. Now I know that this part here is 180 degrees, all of that. But I still need to measure that little piece. So I'm going to take my protractor there we go. So my 90 is lined up nicely there, a 0 there, 0 there. You can see the lines through it. And now we're going to measure from 0. So I'm not reading from the outside, I'm reading from the inside. 0, 5, 10, 15. Well, it's not 20 yet because the line goes past before the 20. So it's definitely 15. And if you look very closely, I'm thinking you can see that is going to be 19 degrees. So that little piece there is 19. But this entire angle is then going to be 180 plus 19 degrees. So this whole piece here measures 199 degrees. So I have a line exactly like that. I can take the protractor, I can line it up nicely, the cross on the cross, line through the 0, line through the 0, and there we go. We have 180 degrees. The green part measures 180 degree angle. I have another acute angle for you. I'm going to put down the protractor. I'm going to line it up for you. For those of you who want to argue with me, because it's a fraction before, that's fine, you can argue with me, not a problem. You could actually say as well, this is 59,5 degrees. It's almost 60. This is an obtuse angle, even though it's not lying on the line exactly. I can see with my eye that this is definitely an obtuse angle. So what I'm going to do now is go and line it up. And I'm going to line up the cross and the 0. But now you can see the drawing is a little bit crooked. It's deliberately not put on the line. So you go and find a line. You call the line your baseline. There we go. I have the baseline. I count from 0. And I go all the way around on the inside line because I'm counting from 0. So I get to 130, 140. It's not quite 135. So I'm going to say that is definitely 134. Now if you look very carefully, you can see we're measuring the green area. And that is the angle I need measured. So there's two ways you can do it. The first thing is you can know that this line here extended is 180, so the top part is 180. And then you would have to measure this part. So I'm going to do the way that I explained to you just now. I'm going to line it up.
Draw a nice straight line. And I'm going to measure from 0, and I get 90. So this part here
is 90. So this is 180 plus 90 degrees. So I'm going to get 270 degrees. But some of you said, oh, ma'am, you're just wasting your time. Well, yes, there is another way. You all know that a complete circle or full revolution is 360 degrees. If I took this and I measured here, and I see that this is 90 over here, and I subtracted 90, I would also end up with 270 degrees.